In August 2024, 4 years after the second film, on Prison Island in Tokyo Bay, Japan, an anthropomorphic red and black hedgehog named Shadow is being kept in suspended animation while being monitored by guardian units of nations. One of the guards expresses concern for the project, but another guard assures him that Shadow has not moved in 50 years. In his capsule, Shadow recalls old memories, such as listening to a young girl play on a guitar, watching the stars with her, and a tragedy that occurred long ago. Suddenly, Shadow's heart rate begins to spike. Then one of the guards notices that their system has been hacked and the containment tank is destabilizing. As the heart rate monitor glitches, the guards realize that Shadow is waking up and immediately calls for security. Multiple GUN soldiers surround and aim at the capsule containing Shadow. Despite his heart rate flatlining for a brief moment, Shadow suddenly awakens and shatters the glass keeping him contained before teleporting out of sight. He then knocks out the soldiers one by one, using his ability to disappear and reappear in between each attack. One of the guards requests backup, only to realize that there is nobody left. Shadow breaks through the compound and teleports onto the water, skating away from Prison Island and toward Tokyo. Elsewhere, in a forest near Green Hills, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Tom, and Maddie are out enjoying a camping trip, while Tails and Knuckles start to prepare for a race. Sonic walks up to them dressed in swimming gear, under the assumption that they were going tubing. Realizing that they are actually having a race, Sonic discards his swimming gear and asks Tom and Maddie to start the countdown. Tom assures Maddie that a bit of sibling rivalry is healthy and that he and his brothers were similar. To which Maddie responds that his brothers were lunatics and none of them were born with the ability to trigger a global cataclysmic event. Tom concedes her point and asks the three to keep the race cataclysmic-less, which they all agree to. Once Maddie finishes counting down, the race begins. Sonic is confident that he is in the lead, but is surprised to see both Tails and Knuckles ahead of him. Sonic quickly takes back the lead, using his spin dash to gain more speed until he reaches the goal. His celebration is cut short when he sees that Tails and Knuckles were somehow already there, meaning he has lost, but he soon realizes that they are actually holograms. Sonic is initially excited to know that he is still the fastest of the group, but then becomes curious as to what is going on. He rushes back to the starting point to find Maddie, Tails, Tom, Ozzy, and Knuckles surprising him with a party. Tom explains that today is the anniversary of the day that Sonic came to Earth, dubbing it Happy Earth Day. Knuckles states that today is the day they honor Sonic, while the others comment on how Sonic has improved the group's lives and brought them together as a family, except for Ozzy, who envies Sonic due to the fact that he stole his humans. After the party, Sonic thanks Tom for setting it up. He then notices a familiar location nearby and immediately rushes toward it, slightly annoying Tom by going too fast as usual. After arriving where Sonic went to, Tom quickly realizes that it is the cave where Sonic used to live. Tom is surprised that Sonic lived in such a poor environment for so long while Sonic plays with the nunchucks that he refers to as his state-of-the-art security system. Tom then notices a mural on the wall, which Sonic explains he drew on his first night on Earth to remember his origins and time with Longclaw. Sonic wonders if Longclaw would be proud of him, and Tom assures him that she would due to the fact that despite losing her at such a young age, he did not let his pain change who he is in his heart. Tom goes on to explain that life is about the choices people make, both good and bad, and that as long as Sonic listens to his heart, he will make the right choice when it matters most. Sonic thanks Tom for the advice and wonders how different his life would be without him, believing he would probably be a completely different Hedgehog, being just like Shadow. In Tokyo, Shadow is walking the streets, gradually growing accustomed to his new modern surroundings. Then he turns to see a promotional ad and discovers that it's the year 2024. Leaving him shocked to discover that he was trapped for 50 years, 1974 to 2024. All of a sudden, a horde of GUN soldiers and vehicles surround the area and rally around Shadow. Annoyed by GUN's continued pursuit of him, Shadow prepares for a fight as his eyes glow with red and orange energy. Back at the campsite, Sonic's group is relaxing and roasting marshmallows, with Tom and Maddie appreciating the opportunity to have some peace and quiet. However, they are interrupted by the sudden arrival of a GUN helicopter, from which Director Rothwell emerges. She explains to them that Commander Walters is requesting Team Sonic's immediate assistance in dealing with the situation in Tokyo. In response to this, Knuckles questions the team name while Sonic immediately agrees to it given his nature. As they set off on the helicopter, Maddie calls out to Team Sonic, reminding them to make good choices. After using a ring to reach Tokyo, Sonic asks Tails, who is piloting the helicopter, how to find Shadow. At that moment, a giant explosion erupts, providing them with a clear sign of where to start looking. Tails proudly displays his newly made titanium handcuffs, which Knuckles dismissively ignores, claiming he is 1,000,000% muscle. This assertion slightly annoys Sonic and Tails, as they have heard it numerous times before. The co-pilot informs Team Sonic that they are over the drop zone, and the trio agrees to stick together, regardless of who or what is down there. Director Rothwell approaches them, making a quip before Team Sonic exits the helicopter. Upon landing at the scene, they observe that GUN has been defeated and wonder what transpired. As Tails picks up strong energy readings on the Miles Electric, a truck is suddenly hurled toward them. Knuckles catches it and tosses it aside, once again boasting about his strength. Then, Shadow appears before Team Sonic, surprising them with his similar appearance to Sonic. Both Hedgehogs question why the other looks like him, but Shadow quickly dismisses the conversation as a waste of time. He warns the trio to walk away before they get hurt, wanting to resolve the situation without conflict. Sonic pulls out the handcuffs that Tails made and asks Shadow to talk with them. However, Shadow refuses, citing their association with GUN, and turns to walk away. Having had enough, Knuckles charges at Shadow to attack him, but Shadow uses his teleportation ability to overwhelm and send Knuckles crashing into a nearby shop. After helping Knuckles up, Team Sonic prepares to fight Shadow together, only to be swiftly defeated by the Black Hedgehog. He then picks up an energy gun and drives off on a motorbike, warning them not to follow. Tails tries to advise Sonic against pursuing Shadow, calling it a bad idea, but Sonic, believing that has never stopped him in the past, goes after him anyway. After chasing him through the streets of Tokyo and bantering along the way, Sonic and Shadow clash with their respective chaos energies, resulting in a city-wide power outage. The city's backup generators turn on shortly after, and Sonic wakes up to find himself handcuffed to a nearby railing. Tails and Knuckles quickly find him, the former of whom is upset that Sonic went off by himself despite them being a team. Sonic apologizes, still not fully accustomed to the concept of teamwork, and decides they need to regroup and get some answers from GUN before continuing. To this end, they decide to take shelter at a Chow Garden cafe, where they are later joined by Commander Walters. When Sonic asks who Shadow is, Walters explains that Shadow's story is similar to his own, but while Sonic found family and friends on Earth, Shadow only encountered pain and loss. Walters recounts that Shadow's story began over 50 years ago with a meteor crash in a quiet corner of Oklahoma. Inside the meteorite was a life form, specifically referred to as the ultimate life form. Scientists who discovered him experimented continuously with his chaos energy, believing it could usher in a new era for humanity. However, they eventually deemed it too dangerous. During an attempt by GUN to secure Shadow, a terrible accident occurred that destroyed the lab and resulted in many fatalities. The project leader was blamed for the incident, leading to his imprisonment and the cancellation of the program. Convinced that Shadow was too dangerous to release but also too valuable to destroy, Walters decided to place him in stasis indefinitely on Prison Island. Sonic realizes that if Shadow spent 50 years in stasis, someone must have helped him escape. Walters agrees, but he points out that only a few people in the world are aware of Shadow's existence. A live show then begins with the Chow mascots dancing on stage, much to Tails' excitement, only for it to be cut short by an attack from several drone badniks, who destroy the table team Sonic and Commander Walters were sitting at. As the civilians flee in terror, Sonic notices that they are the same robots previously used by Dr. Robotnik, who was assumed dead after his last defeat. A motorcyclist, whose face is concealed by his helmet, then crashes into the building, skidding to a halt in front of the drones. One of them attempts to shoot him with a missile, which he easily dodges, causing it to blow up part of the restaurant behind him. He then disables the drones using a device on his wrist before riding away. Team Sonic then finds Commander Walters trapped beneath some rubble, which Knuckles lifts, revealing the commander to be badly injured from the attack. Before succumbing to his wounds, Walters gives Sonic a key to what he describes as the most powerful weapon GUN has ever created, trusting only Sonic to keep it safe. Several trucks of GUN troops then arrive at the scene, with Director Rothwell among them. Searching Walter's body, she notices that his launch key is missing and instead finds a photo of Team Sonic, leading her to believe that they had stolen it and that they could not be trusted. Meanwhile, Team Sonic used parts of Chow costumes to disguise themselves and managed to sneak out undetected. Tails questioned why they were running from GUN, if they were supposed to be on the same side, but Sonic replied that they would not trust anyone until they had more information. Team Sonic chases down the mysterious biker, until the trio catch them at the docks. The motorcyclist removed his helmet to reveal himself as Agent Stone, much to Knuckles' surprise, as the Echidna had referred to Stone as the goat milker, causing Stone to mock him. Stone informed Team Sonic that he is not here to fight. Sonic and Tails demanded to know why he is here and why he had freed Shadow. However, Stone explained that the last thing they wanted was more super-powered hedgehogs running around, and that Robotnik had nothing to do with the attack. He then summons the mecha crab from the ocean and invites Team Sonic inside, where they find an overweight and unshaven Robotnik watching a telenovela, listening to music, and eating junk food. Stone and Team Sonic are here, with the team watching in disgust at how much Robotnik had let himself go. Sonic and Tails express their surprise at seeing Robotnik, who Sonic still refers to as Eggman, alive while also being disturbed by his disheveled appearance. However, the Doctor dismisses their comments, not caring what they think he looks like. Stone informs Robotnik of an imposter using his technology, showing footage from the attack at the Chow Garden. Annoyed at having his persona and precious babies stolen, Robotnik cross-references the coordinates of each drone's energy spikes in order to track down the imposter's base of operations. In order to get closer to finding Shadow, Team Sonic reluctantly decides to team up with Robotnik, but not before he makes Sonic hand over one of his quills, reinvigorating him with a burst of its chaos energy. With the alliance formed, Robotnik has Stone shave his head and help him make his suit fit. Meanwhile, Shadow is seen walking through an abandoned GUN facility in the mountainside when he comes across an old roller skate, causing him to reminisce on his late friend, Maria Robotnik. The scene shifts to a period from 1974, during which she is seen roller skating through the then active facility while carrying a box of her personal belongings. A guard tried to stop her as she approached the laboratory, but Walters, who was a captain at the time, allowed her to enter due to her being granddaughter of Professor Gerald. Walters told Maria where her room was while asking her to take her skates off. Shortly after, Maria came across a room containing the capsule where Shadow was being held for research. Hesitantly approaching the capsule, Maria tried to touch it, only for Shadow to suddenly turn around and glare at her. Although taken aback at first, Maria playfully glared back before drawing a funny face on the capsule to amuse herself. Upon seeing Shadow calm down a little, Maria put her hand on the capsule, and Shadow put his hand up to meet hers. From this point, the two formed a close friendship, enjoying various activities together such as dancing, skating, and watching a movie. However, during the latter, Shadow became upset due to the appearance of a monster that was referred to as an alien freak. Later on, Maria took Shadow up to a field outside the facility, where they watched the stars. Maria commented on their beauty while explaining that it can take hundreds of years for the light of a star to reach Earth, and that the star itself may no longer exist by the time people are able to see it. This prompted Shadow to wonderingly comment that the light shines, even though the star is gone. Maria wondered which star Shadow came from, although he had no memory of his home. Maria responded by telling Shadow that Earth is his home now. Shadow asked Maria if she thought he was dangerous like that movie monster was, as he could tell that the scientists thought so from the way they looked at him. Maria told Shadow that he was her friend, and that he could be whoever he wanted to despite his powers and origins. Shadow, now reassured, took her hand gratefully and they both continued gazing at the stars. The scene returns to 2024. Shadow arrives at the now destroyed room where he first met Maria, silently grieving until he notices Gerald behind him. The professor greets Shadow, having known he would come home. Shadow tells Gerald he is unable to stop thinking about Maria as the pain from losing her is overwhelming, which Gerald states is the reason they must punish those who took Maria's life. Around the same time, Robotnik, Stone, and Team Sonic arrive at the base via a ring. Robotnik tries to figure out a way to open the door, only for Knuckles to break it down with a punch. Hearing their arrival, Shadow prepares for a fight, but Gerald tells him these are the guests he was expecting and that they should give them a warm welcome. As Team Sonic, Robotnik, and Stone walk into the base, Stone wonders what this place is. Sonic replies that it looks like a military base, but nobody has been here for years, leading him to wonder if it's haunted. This thought frightens Knuckles, who is uneasy at the mention of ghosts. Stone then asks Knuckles if he is afraid of ghosts, but Knuckles insists that nothing scares an Echidna warrior. However, Sonic recalls Team Sonic's last movie night, where Knuckles was scared so badly while they were watching Casper that he grabbed Sonic and Tails' hands tightly in panic. causing both the hedgehog and the fox to spill their bowls of popcorn and scream in pain while trying to break free from Knuckles' grip, begging him to let go. Back in the present, Knuckles says that there is no such thing as a friendly ghost. Sonic and the others come across 3 separate paths and realize they need to split up to cover more ground. Not wanting to let Robotnik out of his sight, Sonic chooses the right pathway with him. Meanwhile, Tails and Stone head down the left, while Knuckles takes the middle alone. Knuckles attempts to keep his cool while navigating the tunnel, but is quickly caught by Shadow after the latter startles him. Meanwhile, Stone and Tails are walking through another tunnel, with the former admitting that he finds Tails adorable. Stone asks Tails what it is like being Sonic's assistant, wondering if he has a daily routine or any benefits. But Tails tells him that he and Sonic are actually teammates, with Sonic as the leader, Knuckles as the muscle, and Tails as the inventor. Tails explains that their team is made special by their unique roles and their bond as best friends, and asks Stone if he and Robotnik are the same. Despite not truly believing it himself, Stone tells him that they are indeed best friends. Shadow then appears from behind them and kidnaps them. Elsewhere, Sonic and Robotnik enter a room, and Sonic realizes from the items scattered about, including a photo of Shadow and Maria, that this was an actual home where people lived and that Shadow had a family. Sonic asks Robotnik if he has ever wondered what he would be like if he had a family to keep him from turning into a villain, although the doctor rejects this idea, stating that he never had a family and believing himself to be undesirable to all possible genders. Sonic enters the room where Shadow used to be kept, only for the latter to ambush and knock him out. While wondering where Sonic went, Robotnik comes across several of his stolen drones, prompting him to joyfully hug them. However, he is interrupted by the appearance of the imposter and activates the drones to threaten him. Despite this, the man simply praises Robotnik for his magnificent creations, and explains that he borrowed them to lure Robotnik here and reunite their family. When Robotnik does not respond, the man removes his glasses and properly introduces himself as Gerald Robotnik, Ivo's grandfather. Despite noticing the uncanny resemblance between them, Ivo does not yet believe they are relatives and begins interrogating Gerald, asking him many hard questions. After Gerald answers each question correctly, Ivo is convinced and hugs him, asking where he has been his entire life. Gerald tells him he has spent the last 50 years imprisoned, preventing him from contacting anyone. Gerald is about to tell Ivo why he brought him here, but Ivo retorts that he used his unparalleled intellect to track him down. Gerald counters that it was for the plan he concocted with his own unparalleled intellect, and leads Ivo to the spot where Team Sonic and Agent Stone are tied up in chains. As Sonic regains consciousness, he is horrified to see 2 Eggmen approaching him. Shadow confronts Ivo, referring to him as the long-lost grandson. In response, Ivo calls Shadow another stinking hedgehog. Team Sonic realizes that Gerald is the one responsible for Shadow's escape in the attack on Walters. Shadow then takes the key to GUN's superweapon from Team Sonic, claiming that he and Gerald intend to use it to reclaim everything GUN has taken from them. Gerald presents a hologram of the superweapon, an orbital satellite called the Eclipse Cannon. He explains that he provided GUN with this powerful weapon, the most advanced mankind has ever seen, in exchange for his freedom. The Eclipse Cannon is capable of delivering a precision strike anywhere on Earth. Gerald decides that their first target will be GUN headquarters, which is located in London, callously dismissing Sonic's warning about the innocent lives that will be threatened. He then informs Evo that in order to fire the Eclipse cannon, they need 2 keys, with the second key being locked away in GUN headquarters. Evo agrees to join him, and they set off, accompanied by Stone aboard the Mecha Crab. Before they depart, Evo sarcastically thanks Sonic for inspiring their adventure, as it ultimately worked out in his favor, further justifying Sonic's lack of trust in him. Sonic pleads with Shadow not to allow his pain to change who he is inside. However, Shadow coldly replies that he has spent 50 years reliving what GUN did to Maria, and that this pain has shaped him into who he is today. He drops a small, marble-like device before teleporting away. Sonic is initially unimpressed by it, but it turns out to be a miniature black hole that is consuming all the matter in the base. It starts pulling Team Sonic in, but Knuckles grabs a rope with his teeth, holding them in place while Sonic uses one of Tails' rings to open a portal. Although it takes a while for the portal to actually open due to the ring bouncing off the surrounding debris, they manage to narrowly escape, ending up on a nearby cliff where they watch the last of the base being swallowed up by the black hole. Aboard the Death Crab, Evo, believing Sonic to be dead, is impressed by how quickly Gerald managed to dispose of him. Gerald, in turn, assures him that there is nothing they cannot destroy together. Stone charts a route to GUN headquarters in London, informing the Robotniks that they will arrive in about 4 hours. Realizing that they are ahead of schedule, Gerald decides to take the opportunity to spend quality time with his grandson. Much to Ivo's joy, using virtual reality headsets, they enjoy a variety of recreational activities together, with Stone trying but failing to join in. He prepares lattes for them but ends up discarding them after seeing how much fun they are already having. Back at the Wachowski household, Tom and Maddie are enjoying their new hobbies and interests, getting used to this. Suddenly, the place shakes as a ring portal opens in front of them and Team Sonic suddenly appears in the living room, asking for their help on a mission. Eager for excitement, Tom and Maddie immediately agree, having become bored without the rest of their family. Tails uses the Miles Electric to create a holographic simulation of GUN headquarters so they can devise a plan. Sonic initially thinks he can run across the water and into the base, but he quickly realizes this would get him incinerated by the energy shield. Tails explains that to disable the shield, they need to gain control of it by planting a USB drive in the server room, a task that will fall to Tom and Maddie. After that, Sonic will need to navigate through a laser hall to access the vault. However, GUN has wiped all images and schematics of the vault from their database, leaving them unaware of its design and preventing them from using a ring to access it. Maddie suggests that the plan would work a lot better if Sonic could use the Master Emerald to transform into Super Sonic and obtain the key. Sonic, however, refuses, stating that the Master Emerald is far too powerful to be used again and that they made a promise to keep it hidden. As the only one who knows the Master Emerald's location, Knuckles asserts that as its guardian, anyone who attempts to take it for any reason will become a sworn enemy. Sonic reassures Tom and Maddie that this is the right decision, and they set off for London. Around the same time, Team Robotnik arrives right outside GUN headquarters. Shadow, fueled by his desire for revenge, wants to quickly grab the key and destroy anyone in his way. But Gerald tells him to be patient and let him and Evo handle it, promising the Hedgehog that he will soon have his revenge on an unimaginable scale. Agent Stone provides the Robotniks with their bodysuits for the mission, and is instructed by Evo to watch Shadow in the meantime while keeping the Mecha Crab hidden. While Evo and Gerald set off, Stone invites Shadow into the mecha crab to have guac, to which Shadow responds, "Revenge guac." Meanwhile, Sonic impatiently waits for his team to start the operation. Complaining about waiting all day, though Tails points out they have only just begun. Tails asks for Tom, Maddie, and Knuckles' status, with all three in position and ready to proceed. Knuckles, who has taken position atop the Big Ben, is tasked with breaking glass in case of an emergency, although he initially ignores the emergency part out of eagerness for the chance to punch something. In order to gain access into the headquarters, Tom and Maddie use Tails' hologram technology to assume the likeness of GUN agents, with Maddie taking on Rachel's appearance. Tom critiques Maddie's initial enthusiasm as Rachel for being out of character, causing Maddie to immediately display the more aggressive attitude Rachel is known for. Tom responds that it is perfect and takes on the appearance of her husband Randall. As Tom and Maddie approached the front desk of the headquarters, Tom, disguised as Randall, requested to have lunch upstairs with his wife. The agent at the front desk informed him that the facility was currently locked down and that only those with command-level clearance were allowed access. Tom quietly contacted Tails through the intercom, prompting the Fox to realize that security had tightened following Shadow's escape. At that moment, Maddie, disguised as Rachel, stepped in and delivered an intimidating speech to the agent, threatening to have him fired if he did not comply. Yielding to her pressure, the agent allowed them to proceed. Once upstairs, they switched out of their holograms. Maddie transformed into Captain Rothwell and attempted to gain access to the server room using facial recognition. However, Tom noticed the real Rothwell approaching with several guards. After a tense moment, Rothwell walked past them, and they seized the opportunity to enter the server room. Tails guided Tom and Maddie to the location of the security server, while Sonic and Knuckles grew impatient, ready to carry out their part of the mission. Maddie inserted the drive, but it had no immediate effect, leading Sonic to question whether she had inserted it correctly. In a moment of inspiration, Tom suggested blowing on the drive before reinserting it, which successfully activated it. As Tails was about to shut down the outside sensors, Tom and Maddie noticed another USB drive next to theirs, this one with a giant mustache. Meanwhile, Tails detected two heat signatures moving toward the vault. It turned out to be the Robotniks, who were using the camouflage feature in their suits to sneak past the guards undetected. In the Mecha Crab, Shadow and Stone are watching La Ultima Passion, the same telenovela Evo was watching earlier. Shadow believes that Gabriella, the show's female lead, should kill Juan and Pablo, the two men competing for her love, as she is not a prize to be won. Stone tells Shadow to lighten up, reminding him that they are about to rule the world. Shadow, however, replies that there will be nothing left to rule once they are done. This comment concerns Stone, causing him to ask what he and Gerald are up to. Meanwhile, Tails detects an outside signal from the Mecha Crab. He destroys it by flooding the sewer where it is concealed, resulting in both the Mecha Crab and Stone being washed away. Meanwhile, the Robotniks arrive at the laser hall, where Gerald asks Evo what their next move is. When Evo unexpectedly pushes him into the lasers, Gerald initially panics and flails around. However, he soon realizes that his bodysuit is protecting him from the lasers. Evo explains that he designed the suits to be impenetrable to lasers, but he was previously unsure if the design would work. After Gerald compliments Evo on his cruelty and heartlessness, they begin to dance their way through the laser hall, demonstrating perfect synchronization and coordination in their movements. Outside, Tails notices that the Robotniks are nearly at the vault, prompting Sonic to take action despite Tails' warnings about the active traps. After quickly taking in the sights of London, Sonic approaches GUN headquarters, with his friends telling him that he isn't going to make it. At the last moment, just before he collides with the barrier, Tails grabs him and gives him a boost, allowing Sonic to get inside unharmed. Having arrived at the vault, the Robotniks watch as the doors open, revealing to them a room with the Eclipse cannon key at the center. When Sonic arrives behind them, they make a run for the key, only to be pinned to the floor by an artificial gravity trap. Sonic taunts them and attempts to grab the key himself, but is caught in a similar trap that causes him to float in the air. Director Rothwell arrives and explains that the vault is armed with variable gravity, with green panels containing reduced gravity while the red panels have the opposite effect. Sonic attempts to warn Rothwell about the Robotnik's plan, but she disregards him, still under the impression that Sonic wants to steal the key. A group of GUN soldiers then enter the vault, having captured Tom, Maddie, and Tails. Tom and Evo briefly exchange insults but are interrupted by Rothwell, who plans to arrest all of them. However, Sonic takes the opportunity to call in Knuckles, who glides toward the headquarters at high speed, using the flames of disaster to break through the barrier and into the vault, the impact of which knocks the gravity control device out of Rothwell's hands. Sonic tells Knuckles to disable the gravity trap, but he breaks the device instead, causing the gravity in the vault to go haywire and send everyone in different directions. Sonic is pinned to the floor while a large piece of debris starts to collapse above Tom, Maddie, and Tails, who are also stuck on the other side of the vault. Rothwell attempts to reach the key while floating in the air, pushing her way past soldiers until she and the key suddenly fall to the ground, with Evo right across from her. As they both slowly inch toward the key, Sonic, still under the effects of the red gravity panel, uses his chaos energy to build up enough strength to launch a spin dash, destroying the debris and saving Tom, Maddie, and Tails. At the same time, the gravity in the vault returns to normal, causing everyone who was floating, including Knuckles, to fall back down. Rothwell grabs the key before Evo can and walks out of the vault, prompting Tom to follow her. As Rothwell retreats down the hallway, she encounters Tom, who is disguised as Commander Walters and wearing an arm cast. He thanks Rothwell for keeping the key safe and asks her to hand it over. Although she is initially suspicious, Rothwell does not question his authority and gives him the key. Tom then asks her to organize the reinforcements. After getting out of sight, Tom reverts to his normal self and informs the others that he has the key before taking on Walter's appearance again. At that moment, Shadow suddenly breaks in through the roof. Enraged at the sight of Walters, Shadow strikes him with a chaos energy-fueled punch, immediately knocking him out. As he picks up the Eclipse cannon key, Shadow discovers that Walters was actually Tom in disguise. Sonic then arrives to inform Tom that the others have cleared the building, only to see Tom's unconscious body lying in front of Shadow. Horrified, Sonic rushes to him and desperately pleads for him to wake up. This scene reminds Shadow of his own reaction to Maria's death. Sonic then turns to Shadow, angrily demanding to know what he did. In response, Shadow simply says he did what he had to before teleporting away. Maddie, Tails, and Knuckles soon arrive, all crouching worriedly over Tom's body. Back in the vault, Evo and Gerald find themselves surrounded by GUN soldiers as they try to get back on their feet. Suddenly, Shadow appears and swiftly defeats all the soldiers. He hands Gerald the second key before teleporting the three of them aboard the Eclipse cannon. while Ivo admires the design of the station. Gerald reveals a pair of new suits he has crafted for both of them, causing Ivo to squeal with excitement. Ivo crawls over and begins to kiss Gerald's feet affectionately. Meanwhile, Agent Stone slowly emerges from the river as the mecha crab sinks behind him. He calls Ivo to inform him about Shadow's earlier comments, implying that Gerald may not have been completely honest with them. Ivo interprets Stone's remarks as jealousy toward the bond between him and Gerald, leading him to fire Stone for his insolence. However, Ivo decides to keep Stone around until he is successfully cloned. Stone pleads with Robotnik, expressing his reluctance to lose him again, but Ivo hangs up and blocks Stone, leaving him to sadly give up. Gerald then hands Ivo the 2 keys. Ivo inserts them into the slot on the computer of the Eclipse cannon, causing it to rise from the River Thames. Team Sonic, Maddie, Agent Stone, and the people of London all watch in horror. Outside GUN headquarters, multiple police cars and ambulances arrive to assess the situation, accompanied by reinforcements from GUN. Tom is taken to an ambulance while Maddie follows closely behind. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles watch sadly as the ambulance doors close and it drives away. Maddie turns to Sonic and reassures him that it's not his fault, despite Tails trying to comfort him by saying that Tom will be okay. An enraged Sonic responds that comfort is not what he needs right now. He insists that he needs to stop them, by any means necessary. Brushes his and Knuckles' concerns off and decides to use the power of the Master Emerald. Knuckles immediately disagrees, reminding Sonic that the Master Emerald must never be used for vengeance and that they swore an oath to each other. Sonic insists that they are out of options and that he will do it alone if necessary. Knuckles tells him that his heart is being consumed by anger and that he is not in a suitable state to make decisions, with Tails adding that they are all upset about Tom still refusing to back down. Sonic gives Knuckles one last chance to reveal where the Master Emerald is located. As tension rises and it seems a fight may break out, chaos energy crackling through both of their bodies, Knuckles finally relents. He states that part of their oath is to trust each other and that he will uphold this principle, even if Sonic does not. He reveals that the Master Emerald is guarded by a fearsome warrior, and that Sonic will have to get through him. It is then revealed that Wade Whipple is the fearsome warrior guarding the emerald and that he is using it as a hockey puck on the roof of the Green Hills Sheriff's Department. Sonic appears from a ring and tells Wade he is here for the emerald. Wade refuses, feeling a sense of responsibility over protecting the emerald. Sonic effortlessly takes the emerald, leaving Wade to stand there and give up immediately, saying, "Well, I tried." Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds within it to transform into Super Sonic before flying to the Eclipse Cannon. Meanwhile, the Eclipse Cannon continues its ascent until it reaches outer space. News channels in London, Japan, and New York report on its appearance, as well as on the Robotniks who have taken control of it. Overlooking the Earth, Shadow asks Gerald if this is truly what Maria would have wanted. Taking advantage of Shadow's grief, Gerald responds that it is not about Maria's desires but rather what the world deserves. He urges Shadow to remember the significance of Maria in their lives and what the world stole from them. Gerald's words lead Shadow to reminisce about the past, specifically the day he lost Maria. At that moment, both he and Maria were sitting in their room when Gerald suddenly entered, informing them that they needed to escape because GUN was trying to take Shadow away. The three of them fled down a hallway in the base, pursued by GUN soldiers. One soldier aimed his weapon But Walters tried to intervene, not wanting Maria and Shadow to get hurt, as they were just kids. However, the soldier fired anyway, hitting a nearby canister that caused a massive explosion. As Shadow recovered, he noticed Gerald kneeling over Maria, who had been killed by the blast. While they both grieved her death, the soldiers approached Shadow and Gerald to apprehend them. Back in the present, Shadow, filled with rage, starts to run furiously around the Eclipse cannon's core. As he charges it at high speed, he infuses the core with his chaos energy. Curious, Evo asks Gerald what Shadow is doing. Gerald explains that Shadow is powering up the core by infusing it with chaos energy. And the Eclipse cannon is about to turn the Earth into a flaming pile of rubble, wiping out everything in a 25,000-mile radius, as well as the two of them. Evo is confused by this revelation, as he had hoped that they would rule humanity together with their combined genius. However, Gerald, with a sense of nihilism, declares that humanity is a failed experiment. He believes that Evo should understand this better than anyone, since he has been rejected by the world all his life. He goes on to tell Evo that he has nothing down there nor anyone who cares about him. Evo points out that he and Gerald are family and still have each other, but Gerald coldly disregards this, stating that he is no Maria, and that the only way for him to give her life meaning is to destroy the world that took her from him. Shadow then informs Gerald that he is done, allowing the professor to prepare the firing sequence that would fully charge the weapon in 10 minutes. Looking out the window, Shadow declares that Maria will soon receive justice. He then notices a bright streak of light approaching the cannon and wonders if GUN is launching missiles at them. However, Gerald observes that the object is moving too fast. Evo pulls out Sonic's quill from earlier and watches as it turns a golden yellow, leading him to realize that it's supersonic. Supersonic goes through the window, he rams Shadow and takes him out of the station. Supersonic tells Shadow that he hurt his family and that everything ends at that moment. Shadow tells him that this makes him understand his anger and the pain he has felt for 50 years and declares that Supersonic also chose revenge. Sonic tells him that he is not like him, to which Shadow tells him that they are going to see that. Sonic and Shadow start fighting and crash on Earth. Shadow hides in the dust from the impact and Sonic yells at him to show himself, calling him a coward. As if on cue, Shadow reveals himself and hits Sonic hard enough to knock the Chaos Emeralds out of him. Sonic and Shadow try to grab the Chaos Emeralds to use them against each other. But they both reach for them at the same time and simultaneously, transforming them into Super Sonic and Super Shadow. Sonic tries to hit Shadow, but Shadow easily blocks it and tells Sonic that he was right about everything ending at that moment. The two hedgehogs start a brutal fight that takes them around the world while Evo and Gerald observe from the Eclipse cannon, unable to keep track of the hedgehog's speed. Evo distracts Gerald and attempts to stop his grandfather's plans, although Gerald uses his suit's nanotechnology to create a giant gauntlet and fight back. Super Sonic and Super Shadow continue furiously exchanging blows until they end up in Cape Sunion, Greece. Shadow asks Sonic why he is alone and questions him as a hero, saying that he abandoned his friends and family to get revenge. Sonic warns Shadow not to mention his family. But Shadow goes too far and tells Sonic that he thought he cared about his family, especially Tom. Hearing his name, Sonic is overcome with rage and he hits Shadow with a blow so strong and powerful that it throws him into space. Shadow crashes against the moon and returns to his normal form. Sonic appears, drags him against the lunar surface and immobilizes him. Sonic grabs Shadow to give him the final blow and Shadow tells him to end everything and destroy him. Shadow points himself in the chest and tells Sonic to hit him in the heart to kill him, but then Sonic remembers what Tom told him about he did not let his pain change him, which allows him to not make the same mistake as Shadow and let the pain and rage turn him into something he is not. Sonic frees himself from his rage, lets go of Shadow and returns to his normal form. Shadow is confused as to why Sonic is not taking his revenge after winning the battle, but Sonic tells him that there are no winners with revenge. Shadow looks at space and reminisces on the night he and Maria went stargazing, commenting that he has felt the pain of losing her for so long that it is all he knows. When Sonic reveals that he felt the same way after he lost Longclaw, Shadow asks if his pain eventually went away, which Sonic denies before explaining that with time he realized there was something stronger than the pain, his and Longclaw's love for each other. He tells Shadow that love is what he needs to hold onto, telling him that even though Maria is gone, his love for her will always remain. Shadow finally manages to free himself from the rage that blinded him for 50 years. At that moment, the sun starts to rise from behind the earth and Shadow remembers what Maria told him. The light shines, even though the star is gone, just as Sonic notices the eclipse cannon. Shadow blames himself for the problems he caused, realizing that he was so blinded by rage he thought he had no other choice. Sonic stands up, reminding him that he always has a choice, and offers his right hand to Shadow in a similar fashion to when he convinced Knuckles to fight for the greater good. Shadow accepts the kind gesture, with Sonic stating that the right choice is never easy to make, and that when you really screw something up, you can't fix it on your own. With this, the two hedgehogs re-enter their super forms and, after a brief exchange of quips, set off together to stop the eclipse cannon. Meanwhile, Evo and Gerald continue fighting, with both using their suits' nanotechnology to create weapons and appendages, such as those of a scorpion or mantis, to gain the upper hand. Evo manages to cut off the left half of Gerald's mustache, but is knocked off the cannon's platform and left hanging off the edge. Gerald then notices Super Sonic and Super Shadow approaching via a camera feed, bringing him to the realization that Shadow has betrayed him. As such, he sends a horde of gun hunters to stop them. But they are no match for the hedgehogs and are easily destroyed. Evo pleads with Gerald not to do this, but Gerald coldly taunts him and steps on his hand, causing him to fall into space. While Gerald celebrates and gloats, he fails to notice that Evo was saved by Tails and Knuckles and is being carried back into the cannon. Using Super Sonic's quill, Evo shocks Gerald from behind, the impact of which sends him flying into the Chaos Energy Reactor, instantly killing him as it electrocutes and disintegrates his body on contact. Evo compliments his now late grandfather's bug zapper as he blows on and discards the quill. Tails declares that the three of them have to stop the laser, and they all race to the console. While they cannot stop the laser, they can at least redirect its path, pulling on the levers with all their might to guide the thrusters into changing the laser's course. Outside, Super Shadow notices the laser is about to fire and asks where Super Sonic is. He finds him being chased by several gun hunters, asking for a hand. Shadow produces several Chaos Spears and destroys the horde with them, allowing them to proceed as Sonic tells Shadow to follow him. As the people on the Earth below watch, including, back in London, Agent Stone from the streets and Maddie from a hospital room as she keeps a still unconscious Tom company, the Eclipse cannon fires. But the Super Hedgehogs race to block it with their bodies, with Shadow incredulous and annoyed that this was Sonic's plan to avert disaster and Sonic, seeing his point, pleading for someone to stop the giant death ray. While Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman continue to struggle moving the laser away from Earth, Sonic begins to strain. Unable to handle the force of the laser for much longer. Fortunately, the laser is successfully redirected in time, and Sonic and Shadow are free to move out of the way. The former beginning to plummet to Earth after losing both consciousness and his super form out of exhaustion. The laser just barely misses Earth, and Tails, Knuckles, and Evo celebrate their victory, which Eggman immediately claims for himself, but are horrified as they watch it slice off a chunk of the moon instead, which Eggman blames Tails and Knuckles for. Tails, however, is further horrified to see Sonic's unconscious body falling to Earth, declaring that they have to save him. He asks Knuckles for a ring. The echidna produces one, but warns that it is their last. The two race to an airlock, Tails asking Knuckles if he is ready for some base of ball as he clambers into the echidna's hand. Once the airlock opens, Knuckles positions himself so as not to be sucked into space before hurling Tails out, allowing the fox to get close to Sonic. However, as Tails grabs hold of him and prepares to throw the ring, he struggles to stay conscious against the forces of atmospheric re-entry. Back aboard the Eclipse cannon, Eggman stands alone as the cannon begins to explode around him, only to be scared when Super Shadow teleports in, asking him what is happening. Eggman answers that the cannon's reactor core is overloading and it will soon explode, bathing the Earth in radiation and rendering it uninhabitable. Shadow insists the two of them are not done and orders Eggman to stabilize the reactor long enough for him to push the cannon safely away from Earth, stating that this is their last chance to do the right thing. Eggman agrees to the plan and wishes Shadow well, in Spanish, before the Hedgehog teleports back out. Eggman heads to the center platform, which raises up to allow him to begin stabilizing the reactor with his gloves. As he does, he releases a miniature camera drone that records him as he begins a final livestream dedicated to Agent Stone, who watches it on a building's screen that Eggman has hacked into. The Doctor declares that if he can't rule the world, he might as well save it, for the one and only person who cared about him, all as a devastated Stone pleads with him not to do it. Meanwhile, Shadow takes off his limiter rings to unleash his full power, beginning to push the Eclipse cannon away from Earth as fond memories of his time with Maria flood his mind. Evo continues his message by admitting that Stone was not just a sycophant to him, but a psycho friend, which touches the latter. He says that he will miss the agent's lattes with steamed Austrian goat milk, even adding, "I love the way you make them," in a sentimental tone. Back in Earth's atmosphere, Tails finally passes out just before he can throw the ring and save Sonic, letting go of both it and him, but Knuckles dives down towards them, managing to stay conscious long enough to finish what Tails started by tossing the ring himself and grabbing his friends tightly as they fall into the resulting portal. Eggman finishes his message by imitating a robot as he often did and sarcastically stating, "It's been a real drag. Thanks for nothing." Simultaneously, Shadow shuts his eyes in acceptance as the Eclipse cannon finally explodes into an celestial spiral of chaos energy. On Earth, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles exit the ring portal and land safely in a cornfield, all of them regaining consciousness. The trio looks up at the explosion in the sky as Tails mournfully notes that Shadow and Eggman sacrificed themselves to save the planet, with Sonic sadly repeating his earlier line of "You always have a choice," acknowledging his previously self-serving arch-nemesis Eggman unexpectedly choosing to prioritize the Earth's protection over his own life. Sonic then turns to Tails and Knuckles and apologizes for abandoning them, saying they are the best teammates and friends he could ever want and asking for forgiveness. Knuckles in particular stares at him intensely for a few moments before warmly holding his fist up for a power bump, showing he accepts the apology by asking, "Team Sonic?" Sonic speeds in to hug him instead and includes Tails in the hug not long after, suggesting that they should just call themselves Team. Back in London, Stone looks up at the explosion himself, bidding Eggman a final goodbye before turning to walk off into the night. Sometime later, in the same forest outside Green Hills where the Wachowskis had their last camping trip, they go on another adventure. As Maddie and Ozzy sit nearby, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles decide to create a giant s'more using various food items. Tails calls out to a tent, announcing that it's ready, but when he turns around, he finds that Sonic and Knuckles have already eaten it. Sonic blames Knuckles for the mishap, even though he is equally responsible. Tails then informs the tent's inhabitant that they need to be faster. A mostly recovered Tom emerges from the tent with his left arm in a sling. He insists that he is still moving a bit slow, and the family gathers for a hug, which causes some discomfort for the injured sheriff. Knuckles declares that he is having the love, in response to which Ozzy barks, "I want the love," and joins the hug. Tails mentions how great it is to have everyone together again, and Knuckles adds that their bond is stronger than ever. Sonic concludes that nothing will stand in their way, except for a piece of unfinished business. Soon, Team Sonic line up for a more proper race, gleefully blasting off into the forest. Tails, in particular, activates his backpack-mounted jetpack to keep up with his faster friends. After sunset turns to night, Sonic stops in his tracks, celebrating his victory and declaring himself the family champion. However, he quickly realizes that Tails and Knuckles have not joined him yet. As he looks around, he notices a sign reading New York State Park, and sheepishly admits that he is in New York by overshot the finish line. Unbeknownst to him, a crackle of electricity forms not far behind. A robotic hedgehog figure resembling Sonic emerges from the electric field, charging its arm cannon as it stomps toward him. Sonic starts to wonder how he will get back. The robot raises its arm and fires, creating a large electric explosion that destroys the sign and leaves a substantial crater where Sonic once stood. Nonetheless, the hedgehog quickly re-emerges behind his robotic doppelganger, asserting that the robot better not miss when dealing with the fastest creature in the universe. He punches the robot hard enough to spin its head around, though it soon recovers. Now more aware of the robot's appearance, Sonic comments that he is flattered by the cosplay, but points out some mistakes. However, he concedes that it is hard to copy perfection. At that moment, several differently colored variants of the robot emerge from the woods surrounding the two. Caught off guard by the horde as they fly in to attack, Sonic is relieved when a hammer appears out of nowhere, smashing the variants to pieces. The hammer then flies into the hand of a hooded figure in midair, who swings it down onto the last remaining variant as they land on the ground. Sonic, shocked by this unexpected entry, asks who they are. In response, the figure turns to him, slings the hammer over their shoulder and lifts their hood, revealing the face of a pink female hedgehog who confidently smiles at him. Elsewhere, in a desert on Earth, one of the discarded limiter rings lies in a crater as Shadow, who is still alive, steps closer and reclaims it from the sand and moves on, starting a new life.